The value of video has always been tied to audiences, what gets watched, distributed, monetized. But a different kind of demand is now emerging, one that doesn't start with the audience at all. AI models need data to learn. Not just any data, but high quality, structured, rights cleared video. Because these systems aren't just learning from the internet anymore. They're trying to learn from the real world, unfiltered, unedited, not just a version of it that's already been cut, compressed, and scraped. And that begins to change what footage and video is worth. Archives that were once seen simply as libraries and rough cuts left lying on the editor's floor are now being valued very differently, which raises a bigger question. What happens when the value of video shifts from being watched to being learned from? And one of the people helping shape that shift is my guest today, Chris Keevil, the CEO of Versos AI. Chris, welcome to Media Unscripted.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
And there's a lot of conversation right now about how video is starting to be used not just as content for audiences, but as data for AI. From where you sit at Versos, how is that actually starting to play out in practice? Like, what's the first thing that's changed? Who's buying, what they want, and how content is being priced?
It's really amazing how quickly it's developing. I will say that, and it might help if I backed up 18 months or so, even 24 months. My first exposure to AI generated art was through an application on a Discord channel called Midjourney, and when I saw Midjourney, you could prompt. You still can. You can send a prompt saying, paint me a picture of a monkey on a mountain sipping cappuccino in a Monet style. And it does it. It does it generatively very quickly. And as a person with a media background myself in creative communications and technology, my mind exploded with what I didn't think would ever be possible in my lifetime. And it was made possible through real technology leaps by a Canadian scientist, actually, who developed what are referred to as transformer models. So what emerged from the transformer models and what created Midjourney and what we now know as ChatGPT are large language models. And the key point is that these machine learning or AI models are pre-trained in ChatGPT. That's what the P stands for, pre-trained. So what's happening there is those models are training on data to gain human inference and knowledge and rationality and logic. And the first generation of models were trained on text. The next generation of models that all these hyperscalers are in a race to achieve what they refer to as AGI, or artificial general intelligence. These next generation of models need denser data sets to train on. They need to train on what the scientists would refer to as the known world, because they're building world models. Okay, yes. So now it kind of sets the stage. If a model needs to train on the world and it can't go out into the world to train, then you need to bring the world to the model. How do you do that? Enter video. So video is the new hero. Video is the key ingredient in training these models. And now what's really fascinating is, where does this video reside? Well, it resides in creators' vaults, in their hard drives, in data storage, in their archives, because creators have been creating this video for years and years and years, and many of them have saved it and stored it and kept it in archive databases. So bringing those archives in a highly distributed, almost infinitely distributed network of video archives. You think about all the studios, all the creators, all the hard drives, even videos saved on phones. It's the video that captures the world is almost infinitely distributed. It needs to be brought together to few buyers. We'll say 100 major models are being built in the world. So there's 100 There's 100 companies looking to access these video archives and tens of thousands of sources of video. So gathering up that video and preparing it, what we would refer to as data processing in preparation for data training, is where Versos comes in.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. But I just imagine this, poor AI agents stuck in our computers, not being able to roam freely in the world. They need us. It's always encouraging. Like
They,
this network they created for the AI agents to hire humans to do the mundane jobs in the world, with
right,
3D world. It's
right,
the same like, principle. But
right.
when that demand for video showed up or shows up, what does it actually do to the way archives and raw cuts are valued or even perceived? I mean, what becomes more valuable now, and what start to matter less if we reduce the content to data and not a creative storytelling anymore?
Yeah, it's a very nascent market. And so the market dynamic that you're looking to understand, we are all looking to understand. And that's, how do you value this asset, this video asset versus some other video asset? It's very unstructured and it's quite informal now, but it's moving very quickly. So, I'll give you some examples. We're working right now with a data buyer who is looking to assemble very specifically vertical video of micro dramas. So they want
Ah,
videos created between 30 seconds and 2 minutes, very short narrative videos with a narrative arc, right? So they want a story being told in these 2 minute videos. They're not looking for home video; they're looking for a dramatic video. So these micro dramas that are being created all around the world, but predominantly, most popular in Asia and the Middle East, those are highly valuable right now. Um, Another example would be large volumes of nature and wildlife, full feature length documentary, shows and films are quite valuable as well. Um,
but
I
that's the
mean,
glimpse into the world outside of computers. They
that's
cannot
right.
go on the safari holidays.
That's right. And here's another interesting thing that's happened in the first 6 months. And by the way, I'll say this has really only been happening for like 12 or 18 months. This is brand new. And only in the last 3 to 6 months have we started to see what we anticipated, which was the model builders are looking for cultural and language diversity in their films. Well, of course they are, because a coffee shop, a coffee shop through the lens of, Starbucks all looks the same. But the way people meet in the Middle East, in North Africa, in Western Europe versus Eastern Europe, it's all very different. And to build a world model, you need it all.
And also, the whole LLMs as we know it, they've been trained on the very anglicized, Western developed
Mostly.
version of the world. So I think that's encouraging to see that. I suppose there's only video that will allow it to happen because the
Oh,
internet is probably developed in some areas. Oh, this
it,
is
it,
fascinating.
that's
Yes.
very true. And you've raised another point. The first generation of these models were generally trained on publicly available content on the internet. In some cases, that content is being there's been accusations, probably right, that the content has been scraped without full copyright recognition. So the creators were not, we're not rewarded. We're not paid for the rights to train on that model. And this is another role that Versos can play, because we are really we're representing the creator economy in this sense. And so we are attaching to the
Good.
metadata in the file a chain of custody manifest. So think of it as a certificate attached to every file that says who owns it, where did it go from there, and where is it going from here. So
So it's
we
like a
show the
provenance in the artwork,
it's a
art
it
world.
is
Yeah.
it's a provenance record. It's based on an industry standard that's been developed, championed by Adobe. It's called C2PA. And so we are compliant with C2PA, and we are an authoring agent in effect. We can add a manifest to a file if it doesn't already exist.
May I ask you, because you mentioned rights and the the ownership. So, and do you think that most right holders have like really internalized that shift in the market emerging yet?
No,
Or is it just so, yeah, so you need to educate
it's
the
still,
lawyers,
yeah.
I guess.
Well, the lawyers and the creators. I spoke on a panel in London just, I guess about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and there was
Yeah.
standing room only. It was MIP
Yeah, I
London
was
is the
in the room.
conference. Oh, of course you were. Yeah, of
I
course you were. That's where
for
we met.
that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, you were in the room. So you could see the interest there in that
Very
conversation.
much. So the everything is rights cleared. It's in agreement with the ownership. So another change is that the industry is still largely thinking in audience first terms. Now we're talking machines
Mm-hmm.
first, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. So, because once you stop looking at the footage purely through the lens of audiences, you start to arrive at a very different economic model. And
That's right.
and actually, I remember at MIP London in that standing room only room. I think it was you or somebody else on the panel described this model as, which I think captured quite well, that we move from selling the cow to selling the fillet.
Yeah, that's
When
right.
you move through bulk licensing to highly specific, structured,
Right.
juicier slices of footage,
That's
what
right.
are buyers actually paying for, and how does
Yeah.
that change the economic model in practice?
It changes the value of the assets over time.
Mm,
What's happening is I referenced earlier nature and wildlife documentaries as being valuable in their full episodic form. Um,
mhm,
that's to build what are called these foundational models. To fine tune a model, though, the model builders will come back to the market and they'll say, when we built our model, we really don't have a good grasp of animals running in tall grass. And so we want now, instead of full documentary film, we want scenes of animals running in tall grass only. So give us gazelles and zebras and hyenas running in
mhm,
tall grass on the savannah, and we want 10,000 2-minute clips of that. Okay, well, how do we find 10,000 2-minute clips of something that specific? We need to search across libraries to find not just the metadata attached to the file, but
mhm,
metadata at the scene and object level within the video asset. And that's what
mhm.
Versos processes. So we look inside the video and we can then search across a library and pull tens of thousands of scenes on a very specific ask.
But that
Um,
sounds like almost like a curriculum, for LLM, and it's not necessarily like letting them loose on the world. It is there's somebody very specific about what they want to feed
oh,
AI. And
oh
I don't wonder
yes.
how this works, because I just was thinking, what is the hardest part of turning raw footage, for example, or archives into something usable for AI? And I always was thinking from the technical perspective, from the rights, from clearances. But no, it looks like that this is very prescribed, the little LLM university.
No, that's right. And the other thing that's emerged with this increased specificity of the ask for content is
Mhm,
very detailed metadata that describes what's in the content. So we would look for we would look at a basketball game, 90-minute basketball game, and we would describe every play that's in the basketball game, and we would timestamp every play, and then we would eliminate everything from that 90-minute video that wasn't basketball play, which is a lot. If you think about watching a basketball game, there's commercials, there's timeouts, there's all those things. Well, they don't want any of that noise. They just want the signal against the play within that. They're very
mhm,
interested in, um, broadly speaking, they're very interested in high body motion scenes. So they want to see humans doing things, right? They want to train the model on these actions.
mhm,
It's not just for the models to build better generative video. It's not really about that at all. Understanding the world and how the world interacts with people, how it interacts with animals, how nature behaves, if I can use that term, how nature behaves in the world needs to be understood by the models. We need to understand, how does a tree grow? What happens when grass grows? They need to capture all these elements in the world.
But in a very controlled way.
Yes.
It's like we want micro dramas. Well, everybody wants micro dramas now, but it's like we want
I don't.
micros.
I don't. I don't want them. I can't stand them.
It's okay. Well, my clients want them. I don't want
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I think it is this almost it sort of brings the question about control of how we not only control for the market for the content for LLMs, but also is like what LLMs are being fed the video wise after this sort of wild spree of let's scrape the world through the words from the internet. Now suddenly it's like fine tuning, but where does control actually sit in the market, this new market? Is it with the rights holder, a creator? Or is
That's
it with whoever defines how this data is structured, accessed, paid for? I mean, or maybe it's not a relevant question, but there's always somebody who wants to control
no.
something.
It's a very good question. My assessment is that today the market dynamic is really skewed toward the buyer. The buyers, I'll say, are in control, to use your term. They're in control of what's needed and what they'll pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's fine. It just means as long as everyone's clear on who the customer is, and that's who the customer is. And we need to be, as an industry, my view is we need to organize for the customer. The customer is building a large language model. The customer is willing to pay very well for well curated, well prepared, data structured video assets. Well, the industry should be stepping in and solving that for them. Let's not ask them to do it. Let's serve them like we would serve any other customer and try to serve them well. The better we serve them, the more friction we can take out of the supply chain, the easier we can make it for buyers to buy, then everyone, I think, wins. And studios, as you know, and independent creators will benefit from the monetization of these assets through another revenue stream.
Yeah, because it's an incremental income almost, especially on what I think of the raw footage or the rough cuts, on the editor's floor. Now suddenly they're valued. Although
That's right.
they're much more prescriptive of what they want than I thought, so maybe not as much, but it is incremental income,
Yeah.
or maybe just will completely change how libraries will be valued. But is it not infinite? Because there are hundreds or so LLMs, trainers, however we call them, the owners. They're very prescriptive of what they want to train. So how large is this market? I mean, is it even a fair question to answer? The beginning of it is just me being philosophical, I guess.
Infinity takes a long time. So I don't know about infinite, but I will say that our thesis is that demand for content outstrips available supply today and probably for a long time, because it's hard to gather up and prepare the assets out of this highly fragmented distributed storage network, if I could call it that. And the buyers are in a race. So the buyers want a lot of it and they want it fast. And that demand needs to be satisfied.
Okay, so it looks like that there's not enough storage. Well, maybe I should just get a camera. You can send me out of there on the safari. I'll get you the long grass and the tigers.
Don't joke. Well, don't joke. Don't joke, because
I see that there's need for it. Yes,
it will. It'll come to very bespoke commissioned call outs for video to be created, because
I volunteer.
yeah, well, be careful what you wish for, because they might be asking you to film grass growing, and that's maybe less exciting than the African safari. Or they might want you to fly into outer space and film that. But eventually, everything needs to be captured.
But if we think about this producing, especially for AI, or the to produce content that turns into data rather than storytelling, if you were
Yeah.
advising a studio or factual producer today, what should they do differently with their archives, with the way how they film, to make it more valuable in this new market?
I would say find someone in the industry that is connected to the buy side and start to share your archive samples. Find ways to, if possible, get your archives stored in the cloud, because that work of getting from tape or hard drive to accessible cloud storage takes time. So find a way to do that, find a way to do it cost effectively. Once your assets are in the cloud, the organization of it is less important, but you should, as a studio, creator, become educated on what formats, are going to be required. What are the minimum resolutions? Like, it really does need to be 1080 or greater, but they don't, in most cases, want the camera raw footage. It's too heavy and too dense to move around. So
Okay.
ideally, it's 2K, 4K video stored in a cloud. If that content has a narrative arc in it, that is what people are going to be most interested in today.
Okay,
A narrative
fascinating.
arc, either in scripted or unscripted. So documentary content also valuable. So
Okay, I suppose this also changes how content should be commissioned and created, and not just created in the purpose, but commissioned. If it's not made especially for AIs, if we want to have it almost like a byproduct, let's think
yeah,
about it how we film. Add a
yeah,
couple of days of shooting of the grass.
yeah.
This is fascinating.
Just one other
I wanted
one
to.
other thing. Sorry, one other thing I'd advise a creator is to get familiar with the C2PA protocol, and
Mm,
there's the C2PA protocol can go all the way back to the camera. So certain cameras can stamp the video and create that provenance trail, right from the shutter. So increasingly, I would encourage people to do that so that it feeds this chain of custody and rights management channel.
That's important. Yes, I think that is what is wonderful is like you're creating a new market, but you removed completely the debate about the IP ownership. So lessons
Mm-hmm.
learned on scraping the net, I guess. I
Mm.
wanted just to sort of, as we're heading towards the end, just to do the ask you a couple of quick semi-rapid fire questions. They're actually
Sure.
you can elaborate. What's one misconception producers still have about the value of the archives in the AI era?
Um, well, there's a misconception that's emerged, which is that this is easy money and
Mm,
I can turn this into gold very quickly. It's not that easy. It requires some patience to wait for the market demand for the specific need to match your available content. And for that, you need to make your content available and then be patient for the deals. As the deals start to come, producers can be better at, mapping their content against market need.
okay, that's interesting. I I learned so much. I already. It's not as easy as I thought. It will be just dump all my offcuts to a big
Mhm.
database. That's not what I expected. What you just
No.
described. But one more. What have you changed your mind about in the last 12 months when it comes to AI and video?
Yeah, I have, like my earlier comment about being patient, I've learned to become more patient myself. That the what I've referred to as the wave of demand hasn't swept up on the beaches yet, and so there is still a formation stage in this market,
Hmm.
and it could be 6 or 12 months before I think everything really starts to grow rapidly, which isn't
Hmm.
bad news. It's good news because it gives creators who are entering now time to get ready.
Great. Yeah, food for thought there. It's good that we're early talking about it.
This is
But
very early.
what's the question you're spending the most time answering about AI and video right now?
I guess what we spend our time thinking about is what comes next. And that's hard because things are moving so quickly and changing so rapidly that it is hard for us to predict where the next move comes from. I can give you an example. There was a period 3 months ago where the view was that human robotics were going to enter the market very, very quickly, driving the need for AI models to prepare. That was 3 months ago. Today, people are really rethinking that time frame. So for us, there's a lot of uncertainty about what happens in 3 months, 6 months, let alone hard to imagine 5 years from now. It's just
five
time
years
is
is not
compressed.
for
Yeah,
us.
time is compressed. So we need to move very, very quickly and stay very nimble. And that's true for everyone in this AI space.
Yeah, and there are loads of questions in between that are becoming answers the following night. It's just it develops so quickly.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what's clear is that this isn't just a new revenue stream. There's so much more to it, and it's a shift in where value sits and
Mm-hmm.
being. So not only at the point of distribution, but much earlier, as I mentioned earlier, in how content is captured, commissioned,
You're right.
structured, and it's just made usable for systems that learn rather than just humans that watch. So I can't wait to see this how this unfolds. And Chris, thank you so much for unpacking all that. I learned so much
Well,
unexpected facts about this industry that is growing. Thank you.
it's my pleasure. My pleasure. You had great questions. Thank you.